Shoot. Oh, we're live.
Oh, good morning, everyone. This is Lowell Ann, and this is Being Your Own CEO Mastermind Hangout on air. And I want to welcome everyone. Just a little, for those who are outside watching, this is about a group of us here in Victoria, BC, who I think most of us have belonged to. Nathan is in Mexico right now, but when he's in Victoria, we've all been to a little local networking organization called Host. But you don't need to belong to Host to come to these mastermind hangouts. So what I would like to do to start us off this morning would be to get everyone to introduce themselves and say very briefly what they do in their business. So let's see. I'll start on my right-hand side, which is probably your left-hand side. So Nathan, why don't you start?
Sorry, did you ask me that? I didn't quite hear that.
I asked you to introduce
Oh,
yourself.
sorry, didn't come through clear. Yeah, my name is Nathan Siegel. My main gig is working as a freelance writer and internet marketer. Well, two gigs actually. Yeah, and I'm coming to you from Mexico.
Right, thank you. And the next person in line is Jay. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Jay, and my company is Affiliate Resources Incorporated, and it's a website where I teach people how to get started with online business. So somewhat similar to what Mr. Segal does.
Right on. So welcome. And the next one in line is Bruce. And welcome back. We haven't seen you for a while, Bruce. So nice to have you back. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's fun to be here with everybody. And I'm a realtor in Victoria, BC. And occasionally I do Google Hangouts, real estate-based Google Hangouts as well.
Right on. Boy, I have to be fast at the draw with the mute button here. So, and last but not least, Anne, how would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Ann. My company is Visionary Business Solutions, and I provide bookkeeping and training and office management solutions for small businesses.
Right on, and welcome, Anne. And I might just say that my name is Lowell Ann Fulsang, and my business is Workstyle Lifestyle Consulting, and I work with solo entrepreneurs to gain more focus and become more efficient in their work. And I like to help people and support people as they learn more and more about Google Plus and Google Hangouts and Google integrated programs. So that now we've taken care of introductions, and it's just great to have you all here. I know that Anne, you mentioned that you might need to pop out, but we're probably only going to go for a short while. So maybe you'll be here for the duration of the recording, and then you could feel free to jump off when we're all basically processing the session. So welcome everyone, and I thought this morning that it would be really interesting to have a chat about professional development. I noticed for myself that it being tax time, just finished my tax return, etc., etc., and that always brings me to sort of thinking in terms of budget. And I noticed that for all the years that I've been in business, that I usually have a bit of a budget for professional development. So just because of the time of year, it made me begin to think about that for the coming year. And so I thought that might be an interesting topic for us to explore. So I guess to begin, let's see if we can define what we mean by professional development. What do you folks think about when you think of professional development from a business perspective? So, Anne, what about you?
Oh, Jay, go ahead, and then I'll go.
Well, I think professional development is essentially training to enhance you and or your business. So that could be training on how you run your business better, training on how a certain tool or asset that you have that helps run your business, training on how to make that more efficient. So basically making things more efficient so that your business can almost run itself as opposed to you running your business. That way you can focus on marketing and gaining more exposure to your business.
Oh, okay. So to enhance you and your business. Does anybody have a different definition?
That would basically be the definition that I have as well. One of I turned on here. I just want to make sure my sound is happening. So one of the things that I think is important is budgeting time as well as money for training. So that, because that's one of the things I think when you go into business for yourself, people often don't think about all of the additional costs that they have, and part of that is your time. You only, you sort of think, some people naively think when they start a business, oh, I'm going to bill 8 hours a day. Well, you're not. You're going to have administrative tasks and you're going to have training, and you've got to build that in. So I find sometimes it's the time that's a bit more of a challenge to budget than the money. The one great thing that I have done and that I recommend to my clients is I belong to an association of bookkeepers and accountants. And so through them there is professional development, but also just meeting with people once a month and being able to talk about common problems or situations that we run into has been really, really helpful.
Mm. So, that was one thing that I thought we would get to is how we do that, and definitely there are lots of other ways. But let's just stay with that definition for a moment. Bruce, what about you? Do you think of it in any different way?
Well, as a licensed realtor, we are actually required to go through certain courses every year to keep up our skills, but also to, most importantly, to keep up with the changes in the law. We work very closely with lawyers, and so there are certain changes in laws that we have to keep up with, and so it's actually a requirement. You have no choice. If you don't do that, you lose your license. So I look at it in terms of a must-do. But then again, on the other hand, the benefits are wonderful because you do get to become better at the job, which will increase your business. So it's
that's really interesting in the coaching world. That it's considered a requirement that you do X number of hours every year of professional development, and that is sometimes it's just sitting in on short workshops, and sometimes it's more advanced than that. But I can sure see the importance of that in your business, Bruce, and what I'm hearing is that in our license and our specific expertise, that if we don't stay on the leading edge and know what is absolutely important, we could lose our edge altogether. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that those businesses that don't have the requirement of being licensed like I am, they should definitely budget for it and budget the time for it, because it's only going to enhance your business and your bottom line down the road.
Absolutely. So now, Nathan, what about you? Does that enhancing you and or your business, does that resonate for you? And do you have anything else to add to that definition?
Well, when you first started talking about it, I wasn't able to think of anything right away, and then it suddenly dawned on me that one of the main things I'm doing these days is I'm creating courses. And I've actually been doing that kind of thing for years in the form of writing tutorials. But what I'm doing is going beyond what I used to do, which is I recently created a course for Udemy on how to build a successful career in freelance writing. So in terms of professional development, it's getting certain audio gear, lighting for video and so on. Obviously not what I'm doing right now, but I have a different microphone which I would use for podcasting. I have professional equipment, and so I set that up in a particular way, and then there's a review process going back and forth between me and Udemy to make sure that I get it right. So I've got the one course launched. I'm planning to do another course. I'm planning to do a lot more videos on YouTube. So it's learning how to use these tools in a way that gives me not only good video but good audio, and the good audio is the more challenging part.
Okay, so what I heard two things from what you said. One of them is what you're doing is creating products that may become professional development for somebody else.
No, these products are my products. No, but the other stuff that I've been doing is for other. What's that?
Who's going to use your product?
A lot of the, well, the consumer, whoever the consumer would be.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some stuff that I do already under contract. I've been doing that for almost 2 decades now. But when I'm talking about professional development right now, it's learning a new skill set.
Yeah.
So I can produce videos of a higher quality. And in that case, some of them are going on to different sites. One is Skill Feed, I believe. The other is YouTube. The other is Udemy. And so depending on the site, if it's Skillfeed or Udemy, I believe people can watch that stuff for free. But if they're on Udemy, then they need to pay for the course. They want to watch the videos.
Yeah, I actually wanted to elaborate what Nathan was saying about lighting equipment and whatnot. You know, in my office behind me here, I've got lighting equipment. I've got my little get-out gray wall there, and so I had to learn because I wanted to make my videos more professional. You know, have a kind of a darker background, and so I had to learn how to do that properly. So I took a course on you know how to use effective lighting for video, for online video. And it also included you know tips on audio, you know, improve your audio when you're so far away from you know the actual camera that's recording. It's ideal to have a secondary audio source. So and that was like a great, you know, probably one of the best tips that I've ever received. And then in post production, you just sync up the audio. And you know, so for me that was a wonderful professional development course that I took, and it dramatically helped my service or my products, which is recording videos, and as a result of that, it actually increased the sales in my business because the videos and the audio quality have been have greatly improved, and which is a major factor in terms of like people pay attention more. It's different from what everyone else is doing. So professional development could not only be something that improves you as a business person, but also the equipment that you're using. So
Yeah. So I might give an example of the kind of professional development that I've participated in over the years. I mean, I had an example of that this morning with a client.
I gotta go.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Nice talking to you. Bye.
Bye. So, as a coach, especially with working with people who work in organizations, etc., I've found that I need to read and be on top of all the latest and most recent kinds of organizational development books. So this morning, with a client who works in a large organization, we were talking about left brain, right brain, and how that fits and how that impacts what goes on in an organization, and also how to sort of bring out the best skills in people, which is all about Buckingham's work. So I find that not just taking courses, I've certainly done that, but to be reading the best literature that I can, so that I know what is important and what suggestions I might make for my clients. So it's not just courses; it's our reading, the way the way we stay on top of our field. It's been very, very important for me. So what about so we talked about learning new skills that support our new technology, etc. And I think Bruce, you and I have participated in courses and Hangouts and whatnot within Google Plus on just how these Hangouts work and how to make the most of them and what to do. I mean, that's an ongoing thing that we need to do. We belong to an organization that we pay monthly to belong to, so that we can stay on top of the technology. So it's sometimes it's a one-time thing to learn how to do something, but sometimes it's also, being there and paying attention in a very ongoing way.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, I was thinking as Jay and Nathan were talking, it's professional development can be courses. It can be technology, like Jay was talking about, whether it be lighting and such, and you have to keep up. But I think if you stand back and look at the big picture, there are a lot of people on this earth that have just as much energy as we do. They have maybe more drive. And if you want to keep up with them, and if you want to succeed, you're going to have to push yourself. And that includes, let's say, professional development or professional skills. I remember that my education background was actually a technical photographer, and I had to keep up with the equipment and the skills and all that stuff. And then I got into video broadcasting, and we had to constantly keep up with the way to do it. So if you look at the big picture, if you don't do it yourself in your business, somebody else will pass you by.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So. But here, and as I'm thinking about some of the other members of our host group, and I mean, just think about our host group, and I mean, they're in every community. There are similar meetup groups and networking groups and so forth, and usually the program involves bringing a speaker, and certainly in our organization and one or two others that I belong to, the speakers must be educational rather than pushing their own product, so that the other members of the organization go away with new knowledge or new ideas or whatever. So, I mean, belonging to networking organizations and participating in that way is, in essence, part of the professional development mix as well. So, I don't know I know, Bruce, that you and I go to host on a regular basis, and I must admit, I've learned a lot from the presenters we've had over the years, but there are other organizations that do the same, and that's one of the real benefits to belonging to those. So, but could I go back to? I mean, yes, if you're taking courses in technology and learning all of that, but what about? I want to go back to enhancing yourself as a person. What kinds of things do you folks do to do that?
I'd like to jump on that one first. It's actually interesting that you talk about that because I've been struggling with justifying the cost of hiring a business coach because to me, like, you know, you have your life coaches, you have your business coaches, and so on and so forth, and you know, my circle of friends and entrepreneurial buddies, some of them have business coaches, some of them don't. Some of them have life coaches, and some of them don't. And I'm thinking, like, well, what is a life coach, right? You know, so I've passed that hurdle, and then I go, well, what is a business coach? What can a business coach do for me, or for anyone? You know, because like, have they had a successful business and then sold it, and then they want to pass that education down to other people, and then I get thinking, well, why would a successful person sell their business and then all of a sudden start coaching other businesses? Because I don't see I don't see someone making a lot of money doing that. Now, that's just my humble opinion. So as a result of my humble opinion, I have a lot of trouble wanting to hire a business coach. But I want to hire a business coach because I've heard great things of people who have hired business coaches, and they kind of, it's almost like, you know, it's like they help you put horse blinders on so that you can stay focused and create almost like a plan as to what to do. So I mean, if you guys can, you know, justify that or help me overcome that hurdle, you know, that would be great, you know, in terms of personal development.
Mm-hmm.
You know, can I jump in?
Sure.
You know, Gee, thank you for sharing that. You know, my wife and I have had a couple businesses, and I can't say that we've sold them for a lot of money. But what I can tell you is that entrepreneurs, and I'm hopefully most people will agree, entrepreneurs are a little different breed. And when they accomplish to a certain level, they want to move on. Life is a series of challenges. And so sometimes people have successful businesses, they sell them, and sure, the money is great, but it's just, I've done that. I want to do something else. So maybe that's one reason people get into business coaching. But the other thought I had for you is that before you hire a business coach or a life coach, you have to ask yourself, you know, what do I want to accomplish? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to see myself in 5 or 10 or 15 years? And if you can kind of focus.
Sorry, I said, isn't that their job to help me define that?
Well,
absolutely.
Yes, but I would also say that you must have certain aspirations too, and they can help you discover that and fine-tune it and help you get there. But you must have certain goals in your mind too, I would assume.
Mm. Well, I feel as though I need to answer this question, being a business coach.
Are you a coach?
I agree that with Jay that there are lots of in my business coaching I help determine what their long range goals are, and I also agree a little bit with Bruce in that you must have something in mind. Yes, the individual probably has a vague kind of look about into the future, and what the coach does is help you make that more specific, so that you've got a lot more clarity about where it is that you're going to go and how you're going to get there. And then the other piece that a lot of people seem to need is that whole accountability thing. You can get, we all get drawn off in directions, and it's the coach's job to pull you back to that vision and get you to focus on what this current reality is right this very minute, and what is it I need to move myself more to the vision in the future. So, and sometimes business coaches have some skills and some models and that the client may not have, but mostly it's about just asking the right questions. And a lot of people, whether they're in life coaching or business coaching, it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's just hearing yourself express something out loud. It often brings up something much different from what goes on just inside your head. And the other piece is the coach, whichever kind of coach, that coach is being very, very objective, which your family and your friends will never be. So those are some of the reasons why you might benefit from a coach. And I would say, I have clients. I have one client I've worked with for at least 15 years who said right at the very beginning of what we were doing, I will never be without a coach ever again.
You should get that a testimonial on your website.
Yeah. So I mean, and with that client, I know her business. Well, she's been in several different jobs. She's not in business. She's in a job, a high-level job. Mm. And I know those businesses. You know, I know that inside out. I know that having worked together for so many years, I know who her direct reports are. I know who she reports to. I know their personalities. We can talk about strategy. What kind of a strategy do I need to use if I'm going into this meeting and I'm trying to achieve this? So it's about strategic thinking. So, and that, I mean, I spoke about that because it's fresh in my mind this morning after our session. But I think that a business coach, we're working with entrepreneurs, is also doing the same thing. How to be strategic. What's that about? How do I do that? But then, and also the accountability. So if my client says to me one week, well, next week I really want to get a start on A or B. So the next week I'm going to be asking, so how did that go? Well, they know that I'm going to ask that. So they're just a little bit more apt to have sort of done it. So
yeah.
So I don't know if that helps, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I find that in large organizations, a lot of people are given a professional development budget to use, and they make their choice as to how they want to spend that. And in the case of my 15-year client, she has chosen to use her professional development budget on coaching.
Right. So
where somebody else might decide to take a major course or a university course or whatever. So
yeah. So that actually brings me to my next question: is what do you think a reasonable budget is for a solo entrepreneur for professional development?
I would say it needs to be a percentage.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But what do you think is the ideal percentage of an annual profit? Like 10%, 15%, 5%.
I look at about 10%. Yeah. Sometimes, some years it's a little higher, and some years a little lower, just depending on what's happening. But again, but I really like us to get back to enhancing you. What do you do to about yourself? Because I'm of the firm belief that if we're not emotionally and spiritually stable within ourselves, it's very difficult to be a functional professional person. The two go hand in hand, I think. So what do we do? Do we again? Do we take meditation courses? Do we go to yoga? Well, I guess the other aspect of that is our physical part. You know, what do we do to maintain that part of ourselves, and how do we integrate that with the whole professional development idea? It's being a balanced, healthy person, isn't it?
Well, I mean, what I do in terms of, like, because my hamster wheel is always rolling, right? So I always need to write notes down, and some of the best things that have come out of my brain has actually been while I've been in the shower.
Yes, too.
So I actually, honest to goodness truth, I have a whiteboard in my shower. So I have a whiteboard pen, and one of the showers in my house has I can just write on the wall and then write it off. So I actually write it down, and then I, you know, at some point later on in the day I'll write it down on a different piece of paper or into my Evernote, and so I mean that's just one step away from actually putting an iPad in my shower. But the crazy thing is that it works. It really does. It's probably the goofiest thing I've ever done, you know, in terms of enhancing myself for my business. But it works. If I write things down, I remember them. If I don't remember them. You know, and this is why I always have a notebook. You know, with where I'm writing, always writing notes down. So
I think Jay, I think for your professional development, you should set aside maybe an hour or two every day. Get in your shower, turn on the hot water, and do Google Hangouts.
There's a unique niche for a hangout, huh? Bath time with Jay.
But I couldn't agree more. That's where all my ideas and also things that I thought about a long time ago, and things come back when I'm in the shower. But I like something that you brought up, and something that, and I'll mention it because I recommend it to a lot of my clients, and that is the whole function of journaling. And that's really what you're doing, Jay, is you're journaling what you're thinking, and so that you can bring it up later and act on it. And there are many ways to do that journaling exercise. I mean, some people just sit down. What was the woman's name who wrote about morning pages? There are some people who will sit down and just stream of consciousness write for a given number of minutes every morning, and that's one way of journaling. For me, I use Trello. If I've got an idea that I want to follow up, it's in there, so I can go back and find it. So it's a little bit the same as what you're doing. So you know, there are different ways for us to remain sort of in touch with ourselves and what it is that we want to do. I'm looking at the time. We're just about ready to close. But before we do,
I just wanted to quickly ask Nathan what he does in terms of personal development, because him being a freelance writer, I would imagine, Nathan, that you would be, you know, jotting notes down all the time, you know. So and because one of the major things that I do in my business is write, you know, and you know, us being our worst critics, I always feel that I'm not a very good writer. So, but I've been told otherwise. But, you know, so I'm very curious as to, you know, how your hamster wheel rolls.
Actually, it's a really odd question, because 3 months ago I went through a major transition in my life, and it was a result of watching a video. And now I'm in the middle of a major transition anyway, where I'm going to be less of a freelance writer and more of a teacher, if you will. And my purpose is to show people how to end mental and emotional suffering. So the major change that happened 3 months ago was as a result of watching a video by Eckhart Tolle. And let me just, I can't remember exactly what I did, so just bear with me a second. I just want to call something up. But it was, what happened was enormous in my life. It made such a massive change that I didn't see it when it was, hold on a second here. So I just wrote an article a few days ago, which I posted on LinkedIn, where I said the root of all mental and emotional suffering is thinking. And that's probably a huge surprise to a lot of people. They've maybe never heard this kind of thing. And I created this site to show people how to end suffering. And for a long time, I was just working in a particular direction. Then when I saw this video, it completely changed everything. So I just want to read a little bit of what happened. It said, enlightenment consciously chosen means to relinquish your attachment to past and future and make the now the main focus of your life. It means choosing to dwell in the state of presence rather than in time. It means saying yes to what is. You then don't need pain anymore. How much time do you think you will need before you can say, I will create no more pain, no more suffering? How much more pain do you think you will need before you can make that choice? If you think you need more time, you will get more time and more pain. Time and pain are inseparable. And then the next thing which made this huge change was the power to choose. And it basically says that all your mental and emotional suffering can be traced to a single root cause, which is thinking. When you stop thinking, your entire story of me, your drama, your history, your tales of woe, victimization, etc., dissolves. And in the absence of thought, no suffering can exist. And what happened is when I watched that video and I made that inner commitment, it happened so fast, it literally happened in seconds. And I didn't even realize that I was ready until I watched it. And when I watched the video, my thought processes dropped by 80 to 90%. And for the better part of a month, I was living in stillness and silence. I would walk around in silence. I would work in silence. I was aware of it when I was speaking to people. I'd go to a cafe and I would sit there for an hour or something, and there would be virtually no thoughts going on in my mind. And so it's in terms of personal development, it's more like the antithesis of this, because so many people talk about different ways of thinking better, and if you can only learn how to think better, blah, blah, blah. But in my experience, it's like an analogy which one friend of mine said, it's like moving chairs around in a prison cell. The positions change, but you're still in prison. And the only way, of course, to really change things is to get out of prison. And in this case, if you learn how to stop thinking and you actually live in silence, or learn how to live in silence, so many of the problems that have been plaguing you during your life will suddenly vanish. They will just stop.
So basically, what you were saying is you watched an inspirational video, and you discovered a methodology, and that's basically what you were describing. Is basically what happens in the process of learning to meditate.
No.
That's really what you're doing. Is
No, I'm not. I'm not talking about that. This is beyond just meditation. It's not a discovery either. This was a huge, important change.
It sounds like it was an epiphany.
It was more than an epiphany. An epiphany is just like an idea that you get that lasts for a little while, and it gives you maybe a little bit of knowledge. This was an instantaneous change. One of the things that I watched follow-up videos to do with Eckhart is that he said, in terms of spiritual practice, what I'm experiencing or had experienced is a component to spiritual awakening. And I'd experienced a spiritual awakening, the real McCoy, 7 years ago. Not the kind of stuff that a lot of people talk about, like in things like The Secret. That's not spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening is when you wake up to the reality of who you are beyond name and form, when you know who you actually are and not what people tell you are, and what you think you have been, think you are, and what books tell you are. You actually know from a place beyond mental understanding, beyond thinking, And it's not something that I can explain to anybody. It's something that unless you experience it directly, you don't actually know. And it's a paradox. And it's one of these things that people talk about on the spiritual journey. But after that, for many people, the journey isn't complete. There's a process called unfoldment. And what Eckhart was saying is what happened to me, this thing of suddenly, bang, this thing happens and my thinking processes drop, is the single most important thing that could happen to you on the spiritual journey. And so one of the things that I'm saying to you is, I don't need to think anymore. If I choose not to think, I can literally stop my mind. And silence is there, peace is there, stillness is there. And one of the wonderful things about living in this way is I get to experience the world exactly as it is without any mental filters, any story. It's like if I hear a sound, it can just enter my mind fully. It can be there. It can just live there and dissolves of its own accord. There's no judgment. There's no story. There's no opinion. There's no anything. It's just,
Yeah.
And it's an amazing place to be.
So you're describing your own spiritual journey, but my question would be, and I think it was Jay's question. So how do you get your ideas about what you how you decide, or what you decide to write on?
Like which perspective are we talking from? Some spiritual journey or just or freelance writing?
We were talking about where we are in terms of business. So
okay, well, in terms of well, sometimes it comes out of what I've been doing recently, which is interviews with people. And what happened was a while ago I was looking for topics for this one magazine. I thought, well, I'm going to go to the site of one of my favorite computer tech geeks, a guy by the name of Bob Rankin. So I just started looking through past articles, looking through the archives, looking for topics that might match the topics of the magazine that I've been working for. And I found a whole bunch, and I pitched them to the editor. And then we just refined the list, and from there I was able to start writing articles. And then because many of these articles, many of the topics are beyond my skill level, I reached out to an organization called CARO, which is called helpareporterout.com. And so I put a query out there saying I'm looking for help. And I found one really great expert that I've been working with. And in the course of our conversations, he's told me about, or interviews rather, he's told me about different things in addition to what I'm writing about, which has triggered even more stuff.
Oh, okay. So
that's one way.
That's kind of interesting. And I think that some of us, I know in terms of when I'm trying to decide what topic we're going to talk about here, sometimes it takes me a while for it to bubble to the surface. But like Jay, it usually comes to me in the shower. So, or it comes to me, I may be online, I'm sort of doing just cruising around, looking, not necessarily just looking for ideas, but staying on top of what's going on here and here, and something pops up that gives me a sense of okay, there's what I want to explore. So we're all different in the way that we find our inspiration, and the way that we find our ideas, etc. So.
Yeah. Like some of this, like the spiritual stuff, like some of it is actually come not from, it's like as a result of what happened recently, just sitting and just being quiet. There isn't any particular thing that I do. It's just I've started to realize, based on history, certain things that are there, like this thing about the silence and living in silence. I realized, wait a second, this is not new to me. I've known this for a long time, and it's like finding little pieces of a puzzle that you didn't even know that were there, that are a part of your life, and in when I'm just sitting, not doing anything quite often, is when these things come up. And so, and I've
Not,
started to write
not
about them.
unlike being in the shower, Nathan.
I guess so, but I'm not in the shower when I do it. When I'm in the shower, I'm in the shower, and that's what I'm there
But
for.
what it is, what I think, I mean, it's some of us use the shower as our metaphor. It's when we've slowed everything down to the point where we're not tense, we're totally relaxed, where we're in the moment with ourselves. So I'm looking at the clock, and we're way over our half hour, but it's been a very interesting conversation. And I thank you all, and I'm sorry that Anne had to leave, but she did warn us ahead of time. So I'm not sure what the topic will be for next week. Maybe I'll think of something in the shower. So thanks, everyone, for participating in this interesting conversation. Kind of went in an interesting direction for sure. So we'll see you next week, and please stay tuned and come back and participate in being a CEO. And this is Lowell Ann Fulsang signing off.